boards. Hello there, and welcome to what has somehow become me time. So I've been trying to figure out what to make this week, and I've run through like 3 or 4 different ideas. I actually started working on one of them, and it's a build project that one of you suggested. I also decided that it's probably a bad idea to try and binge through a build project on Christmas. So like recently I was thinking about how I'm one of those artists that just doesn't draw my OCs. Like they get art in my sketchbooks and stuff, but they never get art that's just for them. I kind of feel like a bad parent. So I basically decided that instead of trying to force good content out of myself, I was going to make content that I want to make, which is just... And in a contrived attempt to make this video somehow clickable, this is also going to be a draw this in your style because a lot of people have been asking me to make one. So here it is. Haveth at ye old draw this in your style. What? So whenever I started working on the art for this video, I started drawing an action pose of my character Rose Thornblade because I've been working on like sort of action poses and dynamic poses for myself a bit lately. And for your benefit, here's also some footage of me nerdily trying to capture some pose reference of myself with a sword. Wow, really good stuff. But then I was working on the actual illustration, and as I was working on it, I was thinking, wow, this is really hard to draw. Which then led me to think, wow, this is probably the least accessible thing that I could have picked to draw for a draw this in your style. So in an effort to make this more accessible for more of you who just don't want to try to tackle an action pose right now, because trust me, I understand, they can be hard as balls. Why did I say it like that? Balls! I instead took this idea back to the drawing board, haha, and started working on an illustration of Rose in profile, just sort of holding her sword, something that I could make look pretty detailed and instead use as an opportunity to work on some of my like coloring and painting skills. I figured that this would be not only more enjoyable for most of you to draw if you choose to participate in the draw this in your style, but also significantly easier than like a really extra hyper dynamic action pose that I drew just because ladies with swords. Now those of you that are accustomed to the whole draw this in your style realm know that this challenge is a bit of an exchange, and you didn't think I would forget about that part, did you? Well, that's where you would be wrong, because I did forget about that part. Whenever I was first preparing to record for this video, I was looking on Instagram to see if there was anyone else's art that I wanted to redraw, and I just didn't find anything that, you know, spoke to me. And when I really thought about it, I would rather redraw art that is your art anyways. So what I want you to do, if you want to participate in the Draw This In Your Style challenge and send me your art to redraw, is send me one piece of your art on Instagram. And you'll have plenty of time. I'm probably not going to do the second half of this video until like late January, maybe February. So if you're watching this video in January, you probably still have time to send art in. I'm probably going to choose about 3 or so pieces. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what you guys send in. So send me your art and I look forward to redrawing it. And I'm sorry that I forgot to record this bit earlier because, oh my gosh, this video is going to be so long. So hello! I moved my mic for the Q&A bit of this video, but before I get into that, I just want to discuss what my personal goals for this piece were. I'm really into work that feels very illustrative and like symbolic, so I wanted to focus on making this piece feel kind of ethereal and have interesting colors and like a very intricate background. And I also just wanted to mess around with rendering and like armor shading a bit. So this was very much just a comfort piece that I could do whatever I wanted with. So to any of you who choose to participate in the Draw This In Your Style challenge, I encourage you to do the same. Make a piece that you can have fun with and really like put into your own style. Please don't feel too pressured to make it look super close to mine. And also remember to send them to me on Instagram because I will be sharing them on my story, and I'll probably post my favorites on my community tab as well. Just basically have fun and do whatever you want. I'm very interested to see what your take on this will be, and I'm also very excited to see what you send in for your art so that I can redraw some of your pieces. So don't forget to do that as well. Anyways, let's answer some questions. So I think people sent in like at least 70 questions. So for the sake of time, I am not going to be able to answer all of them, but I have a selection of questions that I think I could answer in this video. I think other questions would have to be for a sketchbook session, or even perhaps like it might even be its own video. But anyway, the first question on my list comes from Snipers. I don't know how to say your name. They ask, hey, I'm recently new to your channel and I'm just curious, what are your pronouns? I just don't want to mess them up. I don't think I've ever answered this in an actual video before, but my pronouns are she, her. So there you go. But our next question comes from Charity Wagent. I'm probably saying your name wrong. I am so sorry. But they ask, how do you escape from the existential crisis that is the 2020s? Not well. I think that I'm doing just about as well as everyone else is with escaping all of the literal dystopian insanity that we're experiencing with life right now. But I would say like the classic escapisms work pretty well, like television. I watch a lot of YouTubers. I've been getting really into like historical clothing and fashion and like sword things, which is just pure and utter escapism. I also go outside a lot, so that is my advice. I've been leaning into that sort of vein where I'm just retreating into the medieval period, and that's how I'm dealing with it. So here's a fun question coming from Neza. I am not going to say anyone's name right today. I am determined. They ask, what kind of music do you like? I've talked about my music taste a little bit on the channel, but in general, it tends to skew towards pop punk and like new wave and a little bit of like indie pop because I like Cave Town and Chloe Moriando. So my favorite artists right now are probably just like Paramore and 21 Pilots and Fall Out Boy and the pop punk people. And I just listen to a bunch of like weird new wave too. I don't know. My music taste at the moment is a bit trash just because recently I've actually been getting into audiobooks. So I haven't been listening to music as much as usual. I've been listening to Dune on audiobook because I have a problem. And then I've also been listening to less music because my phone is a piece of garbage and it doesn't work unless it's plugged in. But at the same time, I've had my new phone for about a week now and I haven't even set it up yet. Or because my phone was terrible for a while, whenever I would go on runs and walks, I would just do it in pure silence, which is really strange. But yeah, I have been listening to the sounds of nature recently. We interrupt this speed paint broadcast to instead bring you some other good content. You know me, it's sponsorship Kira, here to tell you about this video's wonderful returning sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is a huge online learning community that offers thousands of classes for creatives so that you can grow your current passions and even acquire new skills. Skillshare's classes average at around 60 minutes and combine video lessons with a class project, offering you loads of great information in a convenient mobile learning environment. They're constantly adding new premium classes, so there's always new content to discover, and in a huge range of subjects from sketching and illustration to painting to video editing and production to even things like cooking. Their platform is curated for learning, meaning there are no ads so that you can focus on exploring your creativity, and their entire catalog of classes now offers subtitles in Spanish, French, Portuguese, and Dutch, making them even more accessible. Recently, I have been getting very bored with my character posing, and since I've been getting more and more obsessed with swordplay in fantasy settings, Patrick Brown's class Characters in Motion, Capturing Motion and Illustration has been exactly what I needed to get more dynamic poses. I really like that Skillshare's classes have a range of difficulty on their platform because this class is created for intermediate artists and goes a little bit deeper into the technical bits. Patrick focuses on line of action, shapes, foreshortening, and even touches on adding intensity to your character's facial expressions, so it has been exactly what I needed to level up my sword lady poses. So if you're interested in adding more motion to your sketches and improving your draftsmanship, you can try this class out for free right now because Skillshare is offering the first 1,000 people who sign up using my link in the description a free 1-month trial of their premium membership. Thanks again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and I appreciate each and every one of you who check out their platform. It really helps me out. Now, let's get back to it. The next question comes from, I think, Mira the Wolf, who asks, any advice for smaller creators wanting to get a decent following on YouTube / other social medias? This is a bit of a tricky question because I'll be honest, a lot of it can just be luck, or you happen to post something at the right time that just happens to be popular. I think that's basically what happened for me. I had about a following of maybe 5,000 subscribers whenever I posted my first sketchbook tour, and then that sketchbook tour out of nowhere got 100,000 views. It was just random chance. The algorithm deemed my video worthy of sending it to many people, but I think part of it was it had a pretty good thumbnail and title and everything. It just appealed to a lot of people at the time. So exposure can be really tough because sometimes people will work for years and years and put out like good content, and algorithms just will not send their content out to the people who would like to see it. And like, it's just absolutely broken because I've stumbled across channels that have absolutely amazing stuff, and I'm like, why have I not seen this earlier? This is the kind of content that I want to be watching. The system is very broken, but there are a couple of things that you can do. I think staying consistent is a big part of it, and just like keep putting stuff out there, and you know, eventually people who want to see it will find it and see it. I think that that's what happens in the case of a lot of people. There's a YouTuber that I watch, his name is Mike's Mike. Love his content. He posted just off the wall random videos for I think at least 2 years with very little traction, until one of his videos just kind of found the audience that it needed to find. And from there, he kind of blew up and kept growing. But I think one of the reasons why his content became successful and sort of gained traction even years later is because you can tell like he was having fun and he was enjoying what he's making. And if you're making something that you really like, that you enjoy, that like you're passionate about it, that comes through in your work as well. I think that's one reason why my first sketchbook tour resonated with so many people, because I wasn't making that sketchbook or filling that sketchbook with any intention of putting it on the internet whenever I was first doing it. I was just doing it for myself to grow and to like draw stuff because it's what I liked doing. And I think just the fact that, you know, people could relate to that was another reason why that video did well. So I think that is part of it. If you're doing this for yourself, if you're making art or videos or TikToks for yourself because you enjoy doing it, regardless of whether or not you grow an audience or a following, you're going to be happy with the result if you're making something that you're proud of. I think that needs to be a priority. Whenever I first started this YouTube channel, I forget when it was, but I posted videos that were just speed paints for a while, and I didn't really like them. I didn't enjoy making them because I always wanted to like edit. I have been trying to edit videos since I was probably 10 years old because I love the process of editing and just making things look a lot. And I stopped making videos for a while because I was like, I just don't enjoy this and it's coming through. And I didn't gain traction until I was able to sort of make videos that I was proud of and start putting that work into like editing them and like putting more of my passions into what I was making, if that made sense. A lot of times it's just gonna take patience, and it's never fun to hear that because sometimes it's just like it can take forever to gain traction. But like I have been sort of on the internet posting art trying to grow a following for like 10 years, and it's taken me this long to like even get this following. So unfortunately, sometimes it does take a while, but in this comment, you word it like decent following. I think with consistency, and if you care about what you're making, and also if you're making things that are relevant to current topics, like lots of people made stuff about Squid Game whenever it came out. If you made Squid Game fan art or a video or a TikTok about Squid Game, you were probably more likely to get views and follows because of that. So like a little bit, if you hop on the trends and if you're drawing stuff or making things that people in the moment care about, that can also help to launch you into, you know, the algorithm a little bit. But I have kind of rambled on about this answer a little bit too long. I'll be honest, I probably will make a video about this at some point just because I think that it is a relevant topic, and then I can kind of, you know, explain it a little bit better in that video. But I would say my best advice, stay consistent, make things that you care about, and then if things you care about overlap into those like popular topics or whatever is like hot at the moment, then make stuff about that too. And eventually people will end up seeing it. And another piece of advice is just to be thankful for the following you do have, because those are the people who are supporting you and waiting to see what you're posting now. And they're also the people who are probably going to help you grow because they're going to keep engaging with like what you're making. So, but yeah, that's basically my advice for now. Like, don't forget, it's a journey, it's a process. And that's, I think, part of what's appealing to people about consuming content on the internet or even following artists is just watching someone grow and sort of connecting with them. So also don't be afraid to share some of yourself with the internet. Like, make sure that you don't put yourselves in danger if you're like young, but you know, showing a little bit of yourself and connecting with people can also help to grow a following. Okay, that was very long-winded. Booty Pup asks, how is your holiday season going, and is your kitty faring well? Yes, the executive producer is doing very well. She is misbehaving and she is getting into trouble, which is basically her baseline, so I'd say she's doing pretty great. As for how I'm doing, I'm finally on break from college, so I'm actually doing very well. I'm just trying to finish up my last few videos for the year so that I can go on like a formal holiday break. I'm very excited for that, but I'm getting out, I'm hanging out with friends, I'm seeing family. I'm doing pretty great right now. As Lana977 asks, where do you find your main source of inspiration for character design? So, gosh, my character design instincts are kind of all over the place, but the last few videos that I've made about character design are actually pretty accurate to how it happens. Like the skits I do where I'm walking around in nature and then I just get a random off-the-wall idea. Those are dramatic recreations of events that actually happened. But I tend to get a lot of inspiration from Pinterest based off what other people have done. A lot of my inspirations right now are coming from like historical garments and what people did in the past, especially out of like necessity and everything. I'm trying to apply more like practical logic to some of the character designs, like in regards to armor and protection and swords and everything, just because I think that that real world inspiration is very interesting and it's ignored a lot, especially in like Hollywood and stuff like that. I also get very inspired just by applying like shape language and visual language to like different things. I talked about it in my previous character design video where I like to find things that have similar design languages and kind of like link them or use one thing as the other, if that makes sense. And of course, right now, a lot of my inspiration comes from like legends and fantasy and folklore and a lot of the media that I'm consuming. So I kind of just get inspiration from all over the place. But I think the fact that I am getting into more like historical fashion and garments and like paying more attention to like silhouette and everything is definitely helping my design instincts. So if you aren't really interested in stuff like that yet, I recommend getting into it because it's really fascinating and I've learned a lot already. And if you want some YouTubers to watch to sort of ease yourself into it, I recommend Rachel Maxey, Carolina Zabrowska, I think is her name, Bernadette Banner, and then I also enjoy watching Shadiversity for like my sword things. Emilio asks, how do you prevent same face / same body syndrome? This is going to be its own video. I've been planning this for a while. This is actually one of the first videos that I tried to make on my channel whenever I came back, like a video about how to do bodies and stuff like that, and it was just too big of a topic for me to tackle then. But this is going to be a bigger video that I'm going to try to do, or maybe several videos that I'm going to try to do for 2022, because it's a big topic and it's something that I'm kind of passionate about, and I think that I have like some knowledge that could be useful. But generally, I think the best way to prevent it is to just draw real people's bodies. Just like get a reference of someone's body and draw it, and get a reference of someone's face and draw it. Because whenever you actually pay attention to people's proportions and features and you look at it with a more analytical eye and break down like facial structure and their skeleton and like their muscle and like fat amounts and everything, people look drastically different. And I kind of take issue with that, and I'm as guilty of it as any other artist. But like, I think we really have fallen into, there is one standard for how like people look, and it's a little bit upsetting because it erases basically everyone, because everyone looks different. So I'm trying to get a little bit better at that and draw different faces and body types and like just diversify my art all over because I want to draw people that are like, you know, could be real people and not just carbon copies. But like, no offense to anyone who just does enjoy drawing sort of one thing, or that's where your skill level is. Like, I believe people should kind of draw whatever makes them happy. But at the same time, if you do have any desire to draw people that sort of look different and sort of make your characters have unique body types and faces and all that sort of things, if you are interested in that, then you like doing a lot of studies and that sort of thing helps. And I'm gonna, again, try to make a video that maybe can shed some light on how I'm trying to do things, because it is a process for me as well. Like I said, I fall into same face and same body syndrome just like everyone else. Okay, Silva Natasha asks, how do you draw anatomy and when did you start drawing? I'm going to answer the anatomy part first because it's kind of related. So to learn anatomy, it takes a lot of observation, and especially to sort of start drawing without reference, you kind of have to know what you're doing after a while. It takes a lot of repetition, and I can't remember who said this, but I heard someone on YouTube say that they find a lot of people don't struggle as much with anatomy, like the individual anatomical features, as much as they struggle with getting it all in proportion. Proportions are a big part of drawing good anatomy, and they're honestly a really difficult aspect of it. Proportions are probably what I struggled with the most. Now I think I'm kind of in a place where I can do it pretty well even without a reference, although a lot of times using reference is gonna basically be better every time. But if you do want to kind of improve like how you can draw bodies and just coming up with poses on your own or whatever, I recommend a lot of figure drawing so that you can just get used to drawing the figure over and over. And for posing, I recommend like gesture drawing quick figures and gestures that aren't super detailed so that you can get the flow of how bodies move, because I feel like it kind of comes in parts. You've got the detailed anatomical features of the body where it's like that's the detailed part of it to make it look like a more realistic human body, and then you've got the gesture of how it moves, and learning how to draw a body that moves and sort of even exaggerates motion for the purposes of illustrating like a pose or whatever. Those are sort of slightly disconnected different subjects, because you have to learn how to draw an interesting looking pose and then apply like sound anatomy to it. So gesture and figure drawing are good. And then also look at musculature of the body, like figure out like, oh, these are the muscles and this is how they move and this is how this muscle moves whenever you make this motion, and just sort of even analyzing your own body, like referencing your own body for poses is also fantastic, because you can actually feel like under your skin how your bones move or your muscles move, like, and you can kind of figure out proportions that way as well. I feel like this should be basically its own video, but observation is the key to most of it. When you get stuck, find a reference, look at your own body in the mirror, try to match the angle and figure out what is the problem. It takes like a lot of trial and error. If you want someone on YouTube who has good advice for this as well, I highly recommend Modern Day James. He has really good videos for this sort of thing. And in regards to when I started drawing, I've made this joke before, but I basically started drawing straight out of the womb. But yeah, I've been drawing probably since I was like 3 years old or something, ever since I picked up crayons. So this is just, you know, this has been a long time in the making, but I probably started drawing more seriously whenever I was about like 11 or 12. This question is kind of random, but it comes from the Wee Pal. I don't know how to say your name, but they ask how to deal with back pain. And I know this is kind of a relevant question for artists. I don't have much advice on this, but I did want to quickly say my back pain got a heck of a lot better whenever I, number one, started being a little bit more attentive to my posture and trying to sit up more whenever I sit and draw. And number two, whenever I started trying to strengthen like my core muscles and my back muscles, like whenever I started like exercising on a regular basis, my back pain got a lot better. So I recommend trying to strengthen your core, because then it helps to support especially your lower back. Sir Boulder Rock, I love your name, basically asks if I'm going to make a separate channel for like my cosplay and prop making stuff, or if I'm just going to keep posting it on my main channel. I've sort of just decided this is my channel, this is what I want to post on, so I'm going to just post everything here. And there's a reason why it's Prickly Alpaca and not Prickly Alpaca Art, because I'm gonna do what I want on this channel. Rasp asks, what advice would you give to someone who is doubtful of their artistic skills, making them unmotivated to draw, or maybe even comparing themselves to other artists? This is a tough one. I think everyone kind of feels that way at some points. Like, I'm 23 years old and I still feel this way because there's so many like young, amazing artists out there who are learning to draw really fast. I think because the information is so much more accessible to them, and I think that's great. It's just how the times work out. I get you. It can make you feel a little bit inadequate, but I think it's important to focus more so on your own art journey rather than other people's, because everyone is going to improve at a different pace. It doesn't mean that you're behind at all. The only person that you can really compare yourself to is yourself. So don't worry so much about what other people are doing. Instead, focus a little bit more on what you are doing. What motivates you to draw in the first place? Do you have long-term goals that you want to achieve? Is it relaxing? Is it genuinely enjoyable? And why do you have to draw if you're unmotivated in the moment? Whenever it comes to like art blocks and motivation, I'm a big believer in if it's not happening, don't force it, because you're just not gonna have as good of a time most of the time. Sometimes if you gotta get something done, you gotta get something done. You just have to make yourself do it. But if you don't have to do it, do other things that you enjoy instead, especially if you do art for leisure. If you're not enjoying yourself, then don't make yourself do it. Instead, find other things that inspire you in that moment, that motivate you in that moment. And I think a lot of times that will trickle down into, okay, now I'm inspired to draw because I'm just inspired in general. If you're having trouble staying motivated to just be consistent with art, then I think it's a lot of the same thing, like draw when you feel like it. But if you're having trouble finding motivation because you have long-term goals with your art, because you're like very serious about going somewhere with it, that can be very daunting. And I think it's sometimes important to take a little bit of that pressure off of yourself and instead focus on setting some more attainable short-term goals and work on them whenever you can. Whenever you get that little bit of motivation, go and work on that short-term goal. Maybe it's, I want to learn how to draw faces better. Go study faces. Or I want to just learn how to paint or backgrounds, what have you. I've found if you start small like that, those little successes can start to add up and cause you to be more motivated over the long term. So I would ask yourself, like, why are you drawing? Is it for leisure? If it's for leisure, take some pressure off yourself. Don't drive yourself crazy. Do it for fun. If it's because you have those goals, then implement some little habits so that you can work on them bit by bit over time. I encourage people to keep a sketchbook because you can work on almost any art goal in a sketchbook, unless of course your thing is like digital art, but in that case, get an iPad or something. But you can be like, I'm gonna draw a little bit in my sketchbook every day, or 5 days a week, or 3 days a week. And it could be a full-on gouache painting, or it could be a little face or an eye, and you're still hitting that goal of drawing something every so often. And as you get into that habit, maybe you can implement some like learning and some studying and doing some more completed work. I don't know what your situation is if you're working or in school, but I'm willing to bet that you're probably pretty busy, and a sketchbook can be a good way to draw somewhat consistently and try to stay a little bit motivated when you only have like 20 minutes to draw, 30 minutes to draw. So that's my best advice, at least for now. I'll probably touch on that in a future video as well. Nathan Brown asks, how much do you draw on average daily, and how much was the time pre-college? So now I definitely don't draw every day. There have been times whenever I was pretty good about drawing every day, I would do the sketchbook thing and I would just try to draw something in my sketchbook every day. I'm trying to get back into that, but with like work and editing, the flow of my day has changed a good bit, so it's harder to do that. I would say now I draw something like probably 5 days a week or so. Before college, I probably almost certainly drew every day, and in high school, I think I probably completed full art almost every day because I would finish my school. I was homeschooled, so I would go and rush and get through all my schoolwork, and then I would just sit with my bamboo tablet and draw my OCs until I had to go to bed. Definitely less time now, but I would say that what I'm producing and my time is a little bit more quality art time because I am more experienced. AJS11 Rejjie21 asks, what inspired you most to become an artist? I don't know. It was something to do that I was good at, so I just kind of started doing it. But in all seriousness, I really enjoy it. I like making stuff. That's sort of the gist of it. That's the biggest thing. I just really like making things. Neza from before also asked, also, what are your other hobbies, not including those you already talked about on the channel? I have quite a few hobbies. I kind of just dabble in like a bunch of stuff because a lot of things fascinate me, but I would say bigger hobbies that I don't talk about as much. I really like music. I'm not very good at it. Like I'm okay, I'm adequate, but I started playing the ukulele whenever I was like, I don't know, 17 or 18, and then that led to me playing guitar, and I've played a little bit here and there with like a band, like very, very, very casually, and then I also kind of try to sing whenever I play music, and I try to work on my singing a little bit here and there as well. Again, I'm not great. There have been times whenever I am more in practice with that, and I would say my vocals have been better, but right now I'm pretty rusty with both. I've been trying to get into learning electric guitar for a while, but I need to get a new amp, so I'm just completely neglecting that right now. But music is a big thing. I have dabbled a bit in figure skating in the past as well. That's something that I have done since I was a small tot. Well, I was into rollerblading for a long time because I was obsessed with figure skating, but we lived like 45 minutes away from the rink and I couldn't get there, but then I finally got into figure skating and I loved it. But again, I still live really far from a rink, so I can't really go, but I'm into that. I really like working out and exercising. It's like really good for anxiety and depression and stuff like that, so that's something that I still do on a regular basis. I also really enjoy like hiking. Kind of related to hiking, I also like climbing rocks, although I don't normally do that at a climbing gym or anything. I do it whilst hiking whenever it's probably not allowed. I don't think you're supposed to do that without a permit. I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff. I certainly do dabble, but the biggest things that I've been to, I probably have mentioned on the channel at some point. Jax Chaos asks, how do you color skin? I really like the way you add darker and lighter colors, and I've tried to apply it in my own work, but I have no idea how you do it. That's gonna be a video. I get this comment constantly, and I will share my ways, don't worry. Nathan Brown asks, do you plan on doing full-time art or engineering? And the answer to that is whichever one I can do that will allow me to live and make money. I'd love to do art full-time or YouTube full-time. I don't know if that's gonna pan out, but we shall see, basically. Bandana Joe asks, I know it's not art related, but who's your favorite Arcane character and why? And also, what's your favorite part of the show? By the way, love you, bestie. Love you too. My favorite character is Vi. I have a literal problem, an obsession. I talked about this a bit in my sketchbook session from last week. I don't know, she's just relatable and cool, and I kind of want to be her, and that's probably why she's my favorite character. My favorite part of the show is definitely just the animation and the visuals. It's so beautiful, but I think my favorite part of the actual story, I think Jinx is very compelling. I really like how they portrayed the moments whenever she's sort of having these conversations with her inner demons and everything. I think sympathetic villains are very interesting, and I'm excited to see where her story is gonna go. Might we see a possible redemption arc? Anyone? Redemption arc? Is Jinx gonna be the next Zuko? I don't know. Sir Boulder Rock once again asks, basically, what are my art goals and goals for the channel in 2022, and how has being a content creator impacted my life? My goals are to generally, first of all, hit 100,000 subscribers. That's kind of the only goal I've ever had. It's I want to do that, and after that, whatever else happens is a-okay. So that's probably a very realistic goal, probably gonna happen. But other than that, I just want to make more stuff that I'm proud of, and I kind of want to be able to, second of all, take on more interesting client work, projects from clients, which I'm kind of already getting, so we're kind of heading that direction anyways. And then my goal is also to pivot into sort of the kind of content that I want to make, which is less of the conventional artist content and more of cos-tubing meets character design and other art content, just kind of everything. And I'm gonna move on to this question because it kind of ties into how being a content creator has impacted my life. But Rachel Thompson asks, how do you have the motivation to draw even when you're not feeling well, especially mentally or emotionally? This is one big way that being a content creator has impacted my life, because in the past, if I was having like a bad day, especially in terms of like mental health or whatever, I didn't really have to make something or stay creative. But having this has sort of made me have to stay creative a lot. And this fall especially has been kind of a really difficult time. So a lot of it has just been trying to stay a little bit more aware of my like emotions and everything, and trying to process things whenever they happen and sort of stay on top of like my mental health things so that I can be a little bit more motivated to draw. And then second part of that is to treat YouTube sort of like a job, where it's like, doesn't have to be perfect, just let's get it done. Let's try to have the most fun doing it that I can. And outside of YouTube, let's also do art and creative stuff for myself so that all of my creative endeavors aren't just work. So that's sort of how those two questions tie in together. Sometimes whenever I have to get a video done, if I'm not feeling well mentally or emotionally, I just kind of have to force myself to get motivated. I watch a lot of other YouTubers to kind of get hyped up, and I listen to music to get hyped up, and I do a lot of like positive self-talk if I'm not having a good day, just to be like, all right, let's power through and then we can rest later. But the flip side of that is also taking time to just do art for myself and draw for myself that is not YouTube, that is not work, and even isn't stuff that I even intend on showing anyone else. Like the name of the game is sort of compartmentalizing stuff sometimes, because whenever something's sort of your job, especially in terms of like doing sponsorships, it just kind of has to get done and you have to do it. And letting go of some of my perfectionism has also been a big factor in staying productive and motivated and getting things done when they have to get done. But yeah, I hope that kind of answers that question. I do tend to be someone who kind of likes to draw and make stuff all the time, so that does help a good bit, but it also helps to sometimes take a step back and just press pause if I'm not having a good day. That's basically my best piece of advice. Don't force it if you really just can't. I had a day like that this past week, actually. So that day I went to therapy instead, and then I didn't do anything. And then the next day I was able to come back and start working on like 2 videos, and I was feeling way more motivated. So sometimes you gotta just press pause and take care of your brain things, you know? Kill Me So I Can Respawn basically asks how I avoid getting cat hair in all of my paint and like my watercolors, and I was not aware that this is a problem because the executive producer is actually not allowed in certain areas of my house, and she is certainly not allowed around me whenever I'm painting, because she will jump up on whatever I'm painting and get paint all over her little toe beans and track it everywhere. So I don't know how to help you, but my advice would be to just maybe keep the critters away from the paint. I don't know another way to do that, really. Jester Fairy 38 asks if I'm planning on developing the story of my old webcomic, which is Nightfall. The answer to that is sort of, I don't know if I'm going to be ready anytime soon to actually write it. Whenever I think of new lore or I have an idea, I write it down. So I'm sort of always adding to it in that way, but it's sort of a story that I have that's there for me to explore certain ideas. And I don't know if I'll ever be ready to share that with people because I'm not an experienced writer. I've never really written anything. So to present that to an audience with any amount of care and nuance is going to take quite a bit of work on my part, and I don't know if that's quite where my goal is. If I were to like continue sort of writing it and then develop it into a thing, it would be a webcomic, but I don't know. If I were to work on a webcomic, it would probably be my Monster Kids story. That's the one that I've come the closest to making an actual webcomic. I think it would be the easiest story for me to tell because there's more of myself and my life experience in it, so I feel more qualified to tell that story. So I don't know. Short answer, maybe? But I'll definitely keep drawing them, and I do intend on finishing the redesigns for the rest of the cast. It just is going to take me finding the motivation to do so. XX Yami XX asks, how do you stay consistent drawing in your sketchbook? I kind of stay consistent. I haven't stayed as consistent lately because I've been so busy with everything else. But my sketchbook kind of exists just so that all of my art is in one place. So whenever I just get the itch to draw, I can just pick it up and draw something and it's in there and I'm not gonna lose it because all of my art used to be on like loose leaf paper and it would get ruined. So that is one of the ways that I stay consistent because it's basically the only place that I draw that's not digital. So by default, I work in it a lot, but I also get an insane amount of gratification from filling a sketchbook. So that's the other point of motivation. I just really like the feeling of holding a sketchbook and being like, this book is filled with my art. It makes me feel like an old-timey explorer that has drawn a bunch of rare species of exotic birds and brought it home to their family. One of you will understand that feeling, I'm sure. Heather asks, I know this isn't art related, but I would love to hear about your progress and plans with HEMA/MMA, and do you have any goals for the new year related to sports? Basically, my goal is to get into something. I have a lot of sports that I could get into. I really want to do HEMA and MMA, but the issue right now is sort of the commute to a gym that would teach me either of those things. Both of the ones that I've found are really far, and also cost. I can't really afford it at this moment. So my plans and progress are basically, I have been learning bit by bit, little by little from YouTube. And that's basically what my plan is until I can sort of allocate some money in my budget to actually go and pursue those and try them out. But in the meantime, I have been trying to learn a little bit on my own, just watching like YouTube videos. I've been watching a lot of Shad, and then the people who do HEMA in like the next city over also have like instructional YouTube videos. So I'm planning on getting into that a little bit. And my brother has already taught me like some basic guards and like drills with HEMA. So I've been practicing those a little bit whenever I can. For those of you who don't know, HEMA is historical European martial arts and MMA is mixed martial arts, and the other issue is they're both pretty physically demanding, so trying to find time in my day whenever I'm not exhausted to work on them is going to be the other issue. So the plan for now is, while I'm finishing my last semester of college in the spring, to just sort of try to learn through YouTube and on my own, and probably more so focus one at a time because they're kind of different realms. And in the summer, I think I'm going to try to seriously pursue one of them. And I also have a friend who might be interested in doing a martial art with me. So if I can convince them, I'll also have a buddy. This has been very long-winded, so to finish it up, Catco Draws asks, what do you think you most improved on this year, and what are some things you want to work on? And finally, what is a piece or pieces you're most proud of? I think some of the things I improved on the most this year were drawing full bodies and like posing characters and sort of getting more expressive poses out of characters. Like last year, I definitely was not as confident in my ability to draw full bodies and make them look normal and not awkward, but I think I've gotten a lot more comfortable with that this year, which is great. I think I also improved my rendering and shading, which is fantastic. And in other realms, I think I also started to improve like my cosplaying and crafting skills. I think next year I want to work on solidifying my art style a little bit and maybe studying the art of some people that I really like so I can figure out what they're doing and apply it to my own work. I basically want to kind of level everything up another step and basically create more polished work, get a little bit faster at drawing, just sort of round everything out, get more expressive poses and faces, and just become a better artist, but mostly focusing on like stylization. I also have a billion like make projects that I want to do in terms of cosplay and sewing. I want to make that big fantasy gown that I mentioned. It's just, when do I have the budget to do it is sort of what's going to determine when I'm going to do that project. I also have a bunch of cosplays that I want to make, and I have like a bunch of new skills that I want to learn. It's going to be a big year. I also want to work on my painting, but basically I'd say the stuff that I'm most proud of is all my sketchbooks. I'm pretty happy with the work I've done in that. The little sketchbook that I made that I painted in, I loved working on that. That was a lot of fun. And a lot of my digital work, like my character designs, especially the stuff I've been doing recently, I'm super happy with it and proud of it. I feel like this is the kind of art that I've been wanting to do for a while. I just didn't know quite how to go about doing it, but I feel like I'm getting closer to it. And the other thing that I'm really proud of is like the sketchbook that I made and the corresponding costume that I've yet to show you guys that I'm still working on the video on. I'm just self-sabotaging here a little bit because I want it to be good, so I'm afraid of editing it. So I haven't been working working on it as much as I should, but I'm really proud of that. I'm excited to show it to you guys, and darn it, I'm gonna try to finish it in January so you can see it. But yeah, I feel like I made a lot of progress in terms of the kind of stuff I want to make this year, and I'm excited to continue that next year, basically. And that's all the questions that I had time for today. I'm sorry I couldn't answer more. I'm sure this was already pretty long-winded. I just didn't want to make this video like over an hour long because I have a tendency to do that. But I hope the length of this video made it so that you could see the speed paint a little bit better. I know I have the time-lapse things a lot sometimes, especially whenever I have like multiple pieces of art in a video, and I know it can be a little bit hard to see and it can have like a flashing images effect, and I'm sorry if anyone's had like issues because of that, but I am working on solutions. Hopefully I can figure out something, but maybe this video allowed you to see the process a bit smoother. But anyways, here's the finished result. I'm pretty happy with how it came out. It definitely got a little bit touch and go at times, especially with the colors, but I think that I pulled it together in the end. I like how it came out. But remember to send in your art so that I can redraw some pieces by you guys and complete this Draw This in Your Style exchange. I'm really looking forward to setting my peepers on what you guys send in. I'm very excited, but yeah, ladies with swords, am I right? Hello there. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching a video that was like maybe a little bit more relaxed and less produced than usual. I don't know what editing here is going to do at this point. But before I actually wrap up, I just wanted to say a quick thank you to all of you who have... But before I... Hi. So I've tried to record this like 3 or 4 different times, and each time it has just gotten more long-winded and more contrived, so I just want to pop in real quick at the end here and just sincerely thank all of you for being with me and supporting my channel through 2021. Like, this has been an insane year, and honestly, like really stressful and exhausting in a lot of ways, but also like really amazing and exceeded my expectations in many ways because the channel has grown a lot and I've like created so much stuff that I'm like really proud of, and that is in large part because of you guys, because this channel has just kept me like really motivated and inspired in times whenever otherwise I might have been just really exhausted and not in the mood to make anything or create anything. And this channel has also supplied me with this really unexpected, out of nowhere, super fulfilling part-time job, and I feel like really blessed and privileged to be able to do something that I love so much for money, and that is because of you guys. So like I said, I just want to say thank you for supporting me. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed and watches my videos on a regular basis. Thank you to everyone who comments, because your comments are always like really entertaining and inspiring, and they honestly like really make my day. And I've also gotten a lot of comments that have made a big difference on really bad days and kept me motivated and encouraged me. So thank you to everyone who like takes the time to send a kind word my way, because I try to read all of them. I try my absolute best to read all of them. Sometimes it's not possible, but they do make a really big difference. So that's just my quick way of saying thank you, and that I appreciate all of you guys, and that this channel and you guys make a big difference in my life. But yeah, that's all. Cheesy thank you over. I'm looking forward to another year next year of creating chaotic art content for you guys. But now, if you'll excuse me, that is it for this video. I think that I am going to go and hibernate until the new year. Bye.
Why, hello there, my love. Would you care to sit upon my lap?
I got her.
Very good. Desk companion. Oh my goodness. What? It's good content.